I'm Mint Salad, and I saw Tusk. It is directed by Kevin Smith, and this movie is nightmare fuel. Have you ever heard of this? Yeah, this is the reason why I'm not wearing a walrus costume. Not because I couldn't find any at the store, but because of the terrifying thought of becoming a human walrus. So, if you haven't seen this movie, I'm going to spoil it, and if you want to help support the daily grind, go to this link tree right here. It really helps. So, the movie starts with, we're following two people. Mind you, two people who are podcasters from America, and they have a podcast called The Not-SEE Party. Like, the Nazi party? He even does, like, a German accent to sign off the episode. And I'm just like, what cringe lords these guys are. Wow. How amazing is that? These podcasters, their name is Wallace and Teddy. Wallace is like, I'm gonna go to Canada and I'm gonna talk to myself a little old pal named the Kill Bill Kid. He chopped off his legs. And I'm like, that's really extreme. Wow. That's like a Star Wars kid went wrong. And this guy is gonna talk to this kid, and guess what happens when he goes to Canada? That kid has committed suicide, so he's no longer available to talk to. So he needs to find another person to talk to for his podcast. And I'm like, oh boy, what a predicament. If your guy you're supposed to talk to dies, maybe you should take that as a sign as maybe you shouldn't be there. But he's like, I already spent the money. The money spent, and I'm like, okay, so you're gonna look for some stranger? What if that person has like a sickness or is dangerous? What any precautions whatsoever? Honky dory, I'm an American, and I'm gonna walk around like I own the place, 'cause I'm American. Just exactly like that. And I'm just like, I'm just like, wow, this kid doesn't know what's gonna happen to him. And of course, he's looking at the wall, and there's this eloquently written post on the post board, and he's like, I'm gonna tell you some stories if you come over to my house. And he's like, I'm gonna go over to his house, and so he does that. And when he goes to this person's house, get what happens? He meets a guy who's in a wheelchair. Very disarming. Personally, if I was in this situation, which I would not, by the way, I would not just go to some random person's house. So I cannot find myself in this situation whatsoever. However, this American, Wallace, he's very needy for the content. He needs content. And I'm like, okay, amazing. This is how you get killed. But I digress. He goes to talk to the guy. The guy is like, hello, I am a seaman. And I have many seaman stories to tell you. If you just come here and listen. And I would listen to his stories. If I was dumb enough to go to this person's house, I would listen to his stories. However, I would not eat or drink anything that he offers me, which is what Wallace does, and guess what happens? Wallace is like, Guess what happens when he passes out? He's legless! He wakes up in a wheelchair with no leg. Only has one leg, and I'm like, oh no! Why? Okay, let me tell you this. Before he passed out, he's telling this story about how he's had a walrus companion that saved him from a shipwreck. And he stayed by this walrus's side for 6 days and 6 nights until he had to kill the walrus to eat it. And then he survived and was able to live to tell the tale. But this majestic, beautiful walrus was Mr. Tusk. And I'm just like, oh no! something walrus related is about to happen. But I couldn't have imagined this was going to happen. He's legless. And I'm just like, oh, his other leg is going to get chopped off and he's going to become a walrus. Oh boy. And that is exactly what the old man's plans are. I'm just like, oh no. This American is doomed. Will he be able to escape? Well, tries to call his good old pals, Allie and Teddy. Hello, I need help. Actually, I need to whisper. I'm gonna whisper very quietly, but I'm gonna whisper loud enough that if the guy hears it in the other room, he's gonna notice me and then hit me in the back of the head. And meanwhile, guess what happens? Well, it turns out Allie and Teddy are having an affair, and I'm just like, oh no, they're sleeping together. The minute you leave the town, your girlfriend just goes cheats on you. I'm like, oh no. You don't have any true buddies. Because your girl is willing to cheat on you, girl. Come on, man. That's even more of a nightmare than whatever this situation is. He gets hit. Guess what happens? He wakes up, and his arms are like sewn together. And I'm just like, this is so terrifying. And he even tells more of his story. He was an orphan who was fostered by some bad people who had lots of sexual fun with him as a child. And I'm just like, this is a terrifying story. I cannot kind of understand why he just doesn't like people. But doesn't like people enough to turn him into this monstrosity? Like, okay, this is like Frankenstein's monster, but if Frankenstein's monster was still alive while he's being transformed. This is how terrifying everything is. Guess what happens when he's just like, I'm telling you these stories, but you back to sleep. He gets put back to sleep. Meanwhile, we have the good old pals. They're trying to find a way, the lay of the land. Where could he be gone? We went to this one place. Okay, cool. Well, let's talk to some people. Let's talk to some clerks. Oh, he went to this town 2 hours away. Oh, let's go to that town 2 hours away. And I'm like, how do you eventually find him? It's a whole lot of talking to the locals. And like, oh man, that man is creepy. And I'm like, he's a little bit more than creepy, guy. Oh boy. He's walrusing about. He's in a walrus suit. And he has tusks on his face. And I'm like, wow, this is horrifying. Imagine the worst thing ever is taking your beautiful human skin, natural, fully natural, and it being surgeried, and that skin is being used to make a big old human walrus suit, and it's disturbing to look at, and I don't like looking at it. And I'm like, this is nightmare fuel. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Look at that. It's so gross. Now being a monstrosity, wakes up as a walrus. And he's a little hungry. What is he given to eat? A raw fish. A raw fish. Ah yes, delicious raw fish. How will his human intestines and stomach deal with the raw fish? I think humans can actually eat raw fish, but correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. But I'm also just like thinking, is it a human digestive system? Or is it like stretched or lengthened at will? Were any of the internals dealt with? Like, what happened to all the internal organs? Were they messed with? Other than the legs, I guess the leg bones are also being used for the tusks, which is a terrifying thought. And guess what happens with these beautiful, marvelous tusks? Oh, hello, Howard. That's the old man's name, by the way. Hello, Howard. I'm gonna be walrusing here while you lay on me. Because you're like, my beautiful work of art is complete. Also, let's push you into the water. He goes into the water and he sees another attempt at a walrus. A human walrus has already been attempted. And you see the decaying skin and some of the bones. And I'm like, this guy has done this before? How many human walruses has he attempted? Wow. Also, he has a walrus suit on himself. So I'm like, he has to have at least 3 people. Well, I don't know where the skin comes from. So maybe more than one person has been walrified. And that's a terrifying thought in itself, because how many victims does he have? Also, by the way, Wallace's tongue cut out. So all he can do is all of that. That's all he can do. Sorry, that's the Wallace speak. With his lovely, brand spanking new, amazing tusks, he impales Howard multiple times. And he gets blood on his tusks, exactly like that. Look, it's beautiful. He is a walrus, and the guy who made him a walrus is dead. And he is very happy with his life's work. And now we have Wallace just being a walrus. And what really does happen to a human when they're turned into a walrus? Do they have internal thoughts? What are the internal thoughts like? I'm actually really curious about this. Also, I should probably mention that his friends come in right at the split time that he stabs Howard, and now they put him in captivity. He's a human walrus. A walrus at a zoo, and it's like, oh no! Oh. Do you stay within the walrus captivity, or do you thrive about with other walruses? Are people shown this human walrus? What a monstrosity! Not to mention that at the end, when good old pal Teddy and good old pal Allie, they're like, hello, we have an offering for you, some fish. They throw it down at Wallace. Wallace eats the fish very ferally, and Allie cries at him. I love you! He's also told there's a beautiful sentence that the difference between animals and humans, or humans have feelings and can cry, and Wallace cries, meaning he's still a human. And I'm like, what human things can you do, Wallace? I know you're physically a walrus, but I know you got them thoughts. Is there another way you can share those thoughts? You don't have opposable thumbs, so you can't write, which is sad. You can't speak, which is also sad. Well, yeah, I guess you can't really do much of anything. I feel like being a walrus would be boring. And that's how the movie ends. And this movie got me thinking a lot about what it is like to be a human walrus. The ultimate question for a human walrus: how deep can it think? Does it go feral? Do all the thoughts stop after a while? After a while of not being able to speak your mind? Do the internal dialogue stop? Or does it keep on going even faster? Is your vision only like a blank swipe of everything in front of you? Or is it clear as day as you've become enlightened and you don't think anymore? These deep questions were all thought up because of the human walrus that exists. Other than that, the cinematography is great. I like the cutting. The cutting is great. I remember this scene specifically where it's showing where Wallace is being in the captivity, where he's like, you're expected to swim, and it's showing a shot of inside the water, and then showing a shot of Howard, and each shot is very progressive of the rest of the movie. And I'm like, this is a beautiful movie. Also, the acting is beautiful. I am fully convinced by everyone involved that they are who they are portraying in this movie. And so, because of this, Walrus is horrifying, terrifying, stuff of my nightmares. This is probably the scariest thing I've ever seen. I gotta give this movie a solid 9.9 out of 10. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. The ultimate goal of this channel is for me to become an expert film watcher. So, if I haven't reviewed it on the channel, there's a chance I haven't even seen it. So request a movie in the comments below. So fast track that request at patreon.com/ASCpresents for $20 a month for one movie review, or $3 a month for some daily vlogs at patreon.com/ASCpresents. And if you want to help support the daily grind, go to this link tree right here for some NSFW content that you'll really enjoy. And if you go to my Fansly specifically, there's a fun little thing that's happening. Go check it out before you miss it. Go to this link tree, and until next time, I'm Mint Salad Saw. I'll see you later, my salad croutons and bacon bits.